my friends. Let me tell you about a small island with no natural resources, no oil, no gold, no vast farmland, just a port, some swampland, and a population smaller than many cities. 60 years ago, this place was poor. Today, it holds over $1 trillion in sovereign wealth. 1 trillion. That is not luck. That is not accident. That is design. The storm everyone talks about is who has the biggest army, the most land, the loudest voice. But here is the surprise. The real power in the 21st century is not who shouts loudest. It is who plans longest. It is who builds trust when others burn it. It is who turns money into compounding machines instead of spending it on monuments and parades. Singapore took its savings and built 2 machines. One is called Temasek. One is called GIC. These are not just investment funds. They are power multipliers. They are time machines. They let a small nation punch above its weight for generations. And the playbook is not secret. It is discipline. It is foresight. It is trust. Anyone can study it. Few have the patience to copy it. Today I want to show you how this works. Not theory. Mechanisms. Then I want to show you what it means for your country, your company, your life. Because the same principles that turn a small island into a financial giant also turn a struggling founder into a category king. The same discipline that builds trillion-dollar funds also builds careers that compound. Model beats might. Always. Here is the core claim, my friends. Write this down. Power in the modern world comes from 3 things: foresight, discipline, and connective capacity. Foresight means you see the board 20 moves ahead while others react to yesterday's news. Discipline means you follow the plan when the crowd panics or celebrates. Connective capacity means you build bridges when others build walls, and those bridges become highways of capital, talent, and trust. Singapore's sovereign wealth funds are case studies in all 3. They invest in decades, not quarters. They survive crashes because their rules are clean and consistent. They connect East and West, old economy and new, public interest and private return. The result? A nation of 6 million people has the financial clout of countries 50 times its size. That is not might. That is model. Let me start with foresight. Most governments spend what they earn. Singapore saves what it earns, then invests the savings like a founder building a startup. In the 1970 seconds, when the country was still developing, its leaders made a wild decision. They said, we will not spend all the oil revenue, all the port fees, all the tax income on roads and hospitals today. We will put some aside. We will invest it. We will let it compound. 30 years from now, 50 years from now, that compounding will give our children options we cannot imagine. That is foresight. That is the long game. They created Temasek in 1974 to manage state-linked companies and invest for the long term. They created GIC a few years later to manage Singapore's foreign reserves. 2 machines, 2 mandates, 1 philosophy, arrive while others are still debating. When China opened up in the 1980 seconds and 1990 seconds, Temasek was already there. When fintech and biotech were fringe ideas, GIC was funding the picks and shovels. When everyone else was chasing dot-com bubbles, these funds were buying infrastructure in emerging markets. They planned in decades. They built positions early. By the time the crowd arrived, Singapore already owned the ground floor. Think about what this means. Foresight is not magic. It is refusing to optimize for the next election cycle. It is investing in skills, technology, and infrastructure that pay off in 20 years, not 2. It is asking, what does the world need in 2040? And how do we position ourselves now? Most leaders cannot do this. Their incentives are quarterly earnings and 4-year terms. Singapore broke that mold. It said, we optimize for generations. And the mechanism was simple. Ring-fence the savings. Invest them professionally. Let politics stay out of the portfolio. Let time do the work. Here is the law. Foresight beats reaction every time. If you invest when the world is not ready, you get the best price. If you build infrastructure before the need is obvious, you own the bottleneck when demand explodes. If you train people in skills the market does not value yet, you capture the premium when the market wakes up. Singapore's funds did this in telecoms, ports, banking, energy, life sciences. They were early. They were patient. They compounded. Now, let me talk about discipline and trust. Because foresight is nothing without execution. and execution is nothing without trust. Trust is the rarest currency in the world. It is harder to build than skyscrapers. It is easier to lose than money. Singapore built trust by being boringly consistent, clean rules, low corruption, transparent governance, no surprises. Look at how Temasek operates. It is owned by the Ministry of Finance, but it is run like a private fund. Professional managers, market-based compensation, independent board. The government does not raid the fund when budgets are tight. The fund does not bail out failed cronies. There is a firewall. Why? Because without that firewall, trust collapses. Investors, citizens, international partners, they all watch. They ask, is this fund a piggy bank for politicians? Or is it a real institution? If it is a piggy bank, money flees. If it is an institution, money flows in. GIC is even more disciplined. It manages reserves with a mandate to preserve and grow purchasing power over the long term. Not to hit quarterly targets, not to impress rating agencies this year, over the long term. That means they can ride out crashes. They can buy when markets panic. They can hold positions for decades. In 2008, when banks were collapsing, GIC invested billions in Citibank and UBS. The world thought they were crazy. 5 years later, those bets paid off. 10 years later, the gains were enormous. That is what discipline looks like. You follow the model when the crowd is running for the exits. And here is the key. Discipline creates trust, and trust creates access. Because GIC and Temasek have clean track records, global companies want them as investors. Startups want them as anchors. Governments want them as partners. When Alibaba, ByteDance, or Moderna need capital, sovereign wealth funds from Singapore are at the table. Not because Singapore has the biggest checkbook, because Singapore has the best reputation. Trust is the ticket to the best deals. Discipline is how you earn that trust. The law is simple. Discipline builds trust, and trust builds access to opportunities others never see. If you are consistent, people know what to expect. If you follow your own rules, people believe you will follow theirs. If you do not panic or grift, people want you in the room. This is true for nations, companies, and individuals. Be the reliable one. Be the one who does not flinch. You will get the best deals. Now, innovation as policy. This is where most governments fail. They think innovation is about apps and gadgets. Singapore thinks innovation is about designing systems that let apps and gadgets flourish. Think about it. Singapore was one of the first countries to roll out a digital identity system. Why? Because digital identity is infrastructure. It unlocks fintech, health tech, gov tech. It reduces friction. It increases trust. Same with payments. Singapore built open digital payment rails early. Now, every fintech startup in the region wants to build there. Why? Because the pipes are clean. The rules are clear. The government is not the enemy of innovation. It is the architect of the playing field. Temasek invests the same way. It does not just buy tech stocks. It builds ecosystems. It invests in ports, then in logistics tech that makes those ports smarter. It invests in life, sciences, infrastructure, then in biotech startups that need that infrastructure. It invests in green energy, then in grid technology, then in the companies that make grid technology cheap and scalable. This is chess, not checkers. You build the board, then you play on it. You invest in picks and shovels, then in the miners who use them. Here is the mechanism. Innovation is not random. It is a function of infrastructure, talent, capital, and rules. If you have bad infrastructure, innovation is expensive and slow. If you have bad rules, innovation is risky and punished. If you have no talent, innovation moves elsewhere. Singapore stacked all four. It built ports, airports, fiber networks, research labs. It imported and trained talent. It made rules that are predictable and fair. It parked capital in funds that could invest for decades without political interference. The result? It became a node in every global innovation network: finance, logistics, biotech, AI, the law. Innovation is policy. If you want startups, build the pipes. If you want entrepreneurs, clarify the rules. If you want breakthroughs, fund the long shots and protect the long-term investors. Do not wait for innovation to fall from the sky. Design the conditions. Then let the market do its thing. Singapore did this. That is why it is not just rich, it is relevant. Now, geopolitical balance. This is the secret weapon. Singapore is small. It cannot pick sides and survive. So it does not pick sides. It builds bridges. It is friends with the United States and China. It is friends with India and Indonesia. It is friends with Europe and the Middle East. This is not weakness. This is strategy. Because in a fractured world, the connector wins. Look at how Temasek and GIC invest. They have massive positions in Chinese tech, American finance, European infrastructure, Indian startups, Southeast Asian logistics, Latin American resources. They are everywhere. Why? Because diversification is not just risk management. It is power. When you own pieces of everyone's economy, everyone wants you to succeed. When you are not aligned with one block, every block wants you neutral and friendly. You become the Switzerland of capital, the deal maker, the trusted party. This is rare. Most countries are trapped in binary thinking. You are with us or against us. Singapore says, we are with everyone who plays fair. We invest in your economy. We trade with you. We partner with you. But we do not surrender our sovereignty. We do not outsource our security. We do not put all our eggs in one basket. This is the ultimate foresight, because the world is changing. Old alliances are cracking. New powers are rising. If you are stuck on one side, you are fragile. If you have options, you are resilient. The law. In a multipolar world, the connector has more power than the partisan. Build bridges. Keep options open. Do not burn boats. Invest everywhere. Trade everywhere. Make yourself valuable to every side. This is true for nations. It is true for companies. Be the vendor everyone wants, not the captive of one client. It is true for careers. Have skills 5 industries need, not just one. Singapore's funds embody this. They are global. They are flexible. They are neutral. And because of that, they have access others do not. Let me give you a second lens. A parallel model. Think about the underdog playbook. The company with no brand, no cash, no connections. What does it do? It cannot compete on scale. It cannot compete on noise. So it competes on speed, focus, and trust. It moves fast, picks a niche, serves it better than anyone, and earns fanatical loyalty. Over time, that loyalty becomes a moat. The underdog becomes the incumbent. Singapore is that underdog. It started with nothing. It had neighbors that were bigger, richer, more powerful. It had no hinterland. It had internal ethnic tensions. It could have collapsed. Instead, it chose discipline. It said, we will be the most reliable place to do business in Asia, the most predictable, the cleanest, the most efficient. We will not be the biggest. We will be the best. And we will be so good that companies, investors, and talent choose us even when we are expensive. That is the fast versus wise contrast. Fast is reacting to every crisis, chasing every trend, spending every dollar to keep up. Wise is picking a model and sticking to it. Wise is saying, we will not do everything, but what we do at the highest standard. Fast is motion. Wise is progress. Singapore chose progress. It built institutions that last. It invested in education, infrastructure, rule of law. It created sovereign wealth funds that survive political turnover. Fast countries burn out, wise countries compound. Here is another contrast. Today versus tomorrow. Today is popular. Today is spending on subsidies, handouts, monuments. Today is making voters happy this year. Tomorrow is saving, investing, building for the next generation. Tomorrow is unpopular. It requires sacrifice now for benefits later. Most democracies struggle with this. Singapore did not. It chose tomorrow. It saved its surpluses. It invested in long-duration assets. It built funds that will pay dividends for 100 years. That is the time machine. That is how a small island buys security, and influence its size alone could never give it. One more contrast, top-down versus bottom-up. Singapore is often criticized as top-down. And yes, its government is strong and interventionist. But look closer. Its sovereign wealth funds are not run by bureaucrats. They are run by professionals with skin in the game. The government sets the mandate: preserve capital, grow long-term, stay clean, and then steps back. The funds hire globally. They compete for talent. They invest in markets, not political projects. This is the hybrid model. Top-down vision, bottom-up execution. The government designs the system. The market runs the system. That is how you avoid both chaos and stagnation. The law. Be the underdog that out-executes the favorite. Choose one or two things and be world-class. Do not try to do everything. Do not chase every trend. Pick your model. Stick to it. Compound. This is true for small countries, small companies, and people starting with nothing. You cannot outspend the incumbents. You can outthink them. You can outweight them. You can outtrust them. Singapore proves it. Now, a warning. Success is fragile. The same discipline that built this model can erode if you get comfortable. If the next generation forgets why the funds exist, if politicians start eyeing the trillions and thinking, we could spend this on votes, if the professional managers get greedy and take stupid risks, if the international environment changes and Singapore's neutrality becomes a liability instead of an asset, all of this is possible. Here is the counterfactual. Imagine Singapore in 1980 spent all its surplus on consumption. Big welfare programs, shiny projects, votes, no Temasek, no GIC, no long-term funds. What happens? In 2008, when the financial crisis hits, Singapore has no buffer. It has to borrow. It has to cut. It loses credibility. In 2020, when COVID strikes, same story. No reserves. No options. The country that could have been a giant becomes just another dependent state. That is the alternative universe. That is what happens when you choose today over tomorrow. Or imagine the funds get corrupted. Political appointees replace professionals. The government raids the funds to cover budget holes. Cronies get sweetheart deals. Trust collapses. International investors pull out. The funds shrink. The model dies. This has happened in other countries. Resource-rich nations with sovereign wealth funds that became slush funds. The money disappeared. The trust disappeared. The power disappeared. Singapore avoided this, so far. But it is not guaranteed. Every generation has to choose discipline again. Every leader has to resist the temptation to spend, to meddle, to politicize. Comfort is the enemy. Hubris is the enemy. The moment you think you have won, you start losing. That is the law of institutions. You build them slowly, you destroy them quickly. Eternal vigilance, constant renewal, no shortcuts. Let me tell you a parable, a generic founder story. No real names, just the archetype. Imagine 3 founders. They start with nothing. They build a company. It grows. They face a choice. Founder A wants to take profits now, pay himself, buy the car, enjoy the success. Founder B wants to spend everything on growth, hire fast, scale fast. Dominate now. Founder C wants to save some profits, reinvest thoughtfully, build reserves for the bad times, and grow steadily. Which founder survives the crash? Which founder is still standing in 20 years? You know the answer. Founder C. Not because Founder C is smarter, because Founder C has discipline and foresight. Founder C built a balance sheet. Founder C has options when the market turns. Founder A is broke. Founder B is bankrupt. Founder C is buying assets at fire sale prices and emerging stronger. This is the parable of the sovereign wealth fund. Singapore is Founder C. It did not spend everything. It did not borrow recklessly to grow faster. It saved. It invested. It built reserves. And when crises came, and they always come, Singapore had options. The law. Build reserves when times are good. Build discipline into your DNA. Do not spend everything on today's comfort or tomorrow's hype. Keep some dry powder. Keep some optionality. Keep some buffer. This is true for nations, companies, and individuals. The best founders think like sovereign wealth funds. They play the long game. They build institutions, not just products. They compound, not just grow. Be Founder C. Now, let me bring this to you, to your life, to your decisions. Because the playbook that turns a small island into a financial giant also works at the smallest scale. You, your career, your family, your future. The principles are the same. Foresight, discipline, trust, connective capacity. Let me translate. Foresight for you means asking, What skills will be valuable in 10 years? What industries are being born right now that will explode in 2035? What relationships should I build today that will open doors in 2030? You cannot know for sure, but you can guess, you can position, you can invest in skills that are hard to learn and broadly valuable: communication, systems thinking, technical depth, and something scarce, the ability to build trust across cultures. Do not chase the hot job of today, chase the foundational capability that will be hot in 10 years. Arrive early, compound early. Discipline for you means daily practice. It means doing the work when no one is watching. It means choosing long-term progress over short-term comfort. Most people optimize for today. They take the easy job, the easy money, the easy path. You do the opposite. You do the hard thing that builds the skill, the reputation, the resilience. You save money every month, even when you want to spend. You invest in learning even when you are tired. You build relationships even when you do not need them yet. You are founder C. You are Singapore. You delay gratification and you compound the benefits. Trust for you means reputation, hygiene. Every interaction is a deposit or withdrawal. Every promise kept is a deposit. Every lie, every flake, every shortcut is a withdrawal. You want to be the person people call when it matters. The reliable one. The one who does what you say. This takes years. You cannot fake it. You cannot buy it. You earn it one decision at a time. And once you have it, you have access. People return your calls. They give you chances. They trust you with the big opportunities. This is how careers compound. Not talent, not luck, trust. Connective capacity for you means being the bridge. In your company, be the person who understands engineering and business. In your industry, be the person who knows the old guard and the new wave. In your city, be the person who connects different communities. Do not pick a tribe and hate the others. Build bridges. Keep options open. Be valuable to multiple sides. This makes you resilient. If one industry dies, you have another. If one company fails, you have relationships elsewhere. If one geography slows down, you have networks in another. You are a node. You are a connector. You are rare and powerful. Now, the daily behaviors. How do you actually do this? Let me give you the low-level checklist. 1. Every morning ask yourself, did I do something yesterday that compounds? Did I learn something? Did I build something? Did I strengthen a relationship? If the answer is no, you are coasting. Coasting is dying. 2. Every week, review your time. How much did you spend on short-term comfort versus long-term building? If it is 90% comfort, 10% building, you will not compound. Flip it. Make it 60% building, 40% comfort. You will be tired. You will be stretched. But you will grow. 3. Every month, ask, am I keeping my promises? Am I building trust or burning it? If you flaked on someone, fix it. If you lied, come clean. If you cut a corner, pay it back. Reputation is your balance sheet. Guard it like your life. 4. Every quarter, revisit your positioning. Are you learning skills the world will need? Are you in industries that are growing? Are you building relationships that will pay off in 5 years? If not, pivot. Do not wait. The earlier you position, the better your odds. 5. Every year, take a long view. Where do you want to be in 10 years? What has to be true for that to happen? What do you need to start now? Write it down. Break it into milestones. Then go build. This is not sexy. This is not the motivational speech that promises you can be anything you want if you just believe. This is the operational manual. This is the sovereign wealth fund playbook for your life. Save more than you spend. Invest in long-duration assets, skills, relationships, reputation. Stay disciplined when the crowd panics or celebrates. Build trust daily. Connect people and ideas. Compound. Here is the arena crescendo, my friends. The call to action. The pledge. You have seen the model. Singapore took nothing and built power. It did not do it with armies or speeches. It did it with foresight, discipline, trust, and bridges. It said, we will plan longer, save more, invest smarter, and connect better than anyone. And it worked. The model works. The model beats might. Every time. Now, you must choose. Will you be the leader who spends everything on today's applause, or will you be the builder who invests in tomorrow's compound? Will you be the manager who chases quarterly targets, or will you be the strategist who positions for decade-long compounding? Will you be the person who optimizes for comfort, or will you be the person who optimizes for resilience and growth? This is not theory. This is daily choice. Let me say it again. Foresight beats reaction. Discipline builds trust. Innovation is policy. Connectors win in fractured worlds. Long-term beats short-term. Model beats might. These are not slogans. These are laws. If you follow them, you compound. If you ignore them, you fade. It is that simple. It is that hard. You do not need $1 trillion to start. You do not need a government. You do not need permission. You need the decision. The decision to plan long. The decision to choose discipline over comfort. The decision to build trust daily. The decision to connect instead of divide. The decision to be founder C, not founder A or B. The decision to be Singapore, not the counterfactual. Think about this. Every institution that lasts is built on these principles. Every company that compounds is built on these principles. Every career that defies the odds is built on these principles. The world rewards the long view. It rewards the disciplined. It rewards the trustworthy. It rewards the connectors. Not immediately, not obviously, but inevitably, over years and decades. The model wins. So here is your pledge. Starting today, you will play the long game. You will not chase every shiny object. You will not burn trust for short-term gain. You will not pick unnecessary fights or burn bridges. You will invest in skills, relationships, and systems that compound. You will save more than you spend. You will build more than you consume. You will position while others react. You will arrive while others debate. You will be the sovereign wealth fund of your own life. This is not easy. You will be lonely. Your friends will wonder why you are not spending, why you are not celebrating, why you are working on things that do not pay off yet. Let them wonder. You are building something they cannot see. You are compounding. And in 10 years, 20 years, when they are stuck and you have options, they will ask how you did it. You will say, I chose discipline. I chose trust. I chose the long term. I chose the model. Outsmart, do not outfight. Build models others copy. Choose discipline. Choose trust. Choose the long term. That is the playbook. That is how Singapore turned savings into power. That is how Temasek and GIC multiplied a small nation's strength. That is how you turn your small resources, time, energy, attention into compounding power that lasts. The storm is coming. The world is fracturing. The easy wins are over. But the long-term builders will thrive. The disciplined will thrive. The connectors will thrive. The ones who follow the model will thrive. Be that one. Start today. Play the long game. Build trust daily. Connect everything. Compound relentlessly. The model wins. Always. That is the law. That is the playbook. That is your choice. Make it now. Thank you.